Jack Ryland always believed his life was unbreakable. A loving marriage, a respected job, and a spotless record. But late one stormy night, everything changes. His wife Selena storms home bleeding and terrified, accusing him of shoving her into the wall. Neighbors flood his living room. An arrest, a broken promise, the stench of violence on his name. He's stunned. That isn't what happened. The real shock hits when Selena's new partner, Detective Reyes, a man with a sharp smile and darker secrets, leans in. He insists Jack did it. And because Reyes wears the badge, his word becomes law. Suddenly, Jack is the suspect in his own life, and if he doesn't fight, the plot will eat him whole. So if you think you've heard it all, you haven't. Hit follow on your favorite platform and leave us a comment, because the next story might just change the way you see everything. Don't miss a single twisted turn. Chapter 1. The knock at the door. Jack Ryland was folding laundry when the knock came. 3 sharp raps, calculated, authoritative, and out of place in their quiet cul-de-sac. His dog Pepper barked once and ran to the door. Jack followed, glancing at the wall clock. 9:38 p.m. He opened the door, and everything fell apart. 2 officers stood outside. One wore a blank expression, clipboard in hand. The other was smirking. That smirk. Jack's stomach twisted. "Jack Ryland?" the clipboard officer asked. "Yes." "You're under arrest for felony domestic assault. Turn around." Jack blinked, frozen. "What?" The smirking officer stepped forward. Detective Mateo Reyes, his wife's friend, or so Jack thought. Selena must be home. "Cuffs," Reyes said. Jack didn't move. "Where's Selena? What is this?" "She's pressing charges," Reyes said, voice smug. "She says you slammed her into a wall." "That's a lie," Jack said, heart pounding. "She wasn't even home until 20 minutes ago." Clipboard cop stepped behind him, pulling his arms tight. "You can explain that at the station." Reyes leaned in. "And Jack? You resist, I swear to God, you'll regret it." Pepper barked again, confused. Jack was speechless. Handcuffs clicked. And just like that, the life he built began to fall apart. Hours earlier, it had been an ordinary Wednesday. Jack, an architectural drafter, had stayed home with a Langford. He protected them. Jack opened the file. Photos, banker records, surveillance logs. "Why are you giving me this?" "Because I can't bring it forward, but you can. You have the mic." Jack studied him. "They'll come after you." "They already did. Pancreatic cancer. Got months, if that. Let me be useful while I still have breath." Escalation. Jack and Mallory reconnected. With Gideon's file, they built a case not just against Reyes, but against half a dozen players in the chain. The DOJ launched an internal review. The podcast returned for a final season. But Reyes wasn't finished. The assault late one night. Clara went missing. She'd gone out for groceries, didn't return. Her car was found parked near a cliffside overlook. Driver's door open. Keys in the ignition. No sign of struggle. Jack's world stopped. The next morning, he received a voicemail. "Reyes. You wanted to burn it all down, Jack? Now it's personal. You don't stop. She won't come back." He dropped the phone. Chapter 5. The hunt for Clara was gone. The sun had risen, but Jack Ryland's world was darker than ever. The voicemail from Reyes played over and over in his head, as if Clara's fate was trapped inside it. "You don't stop. She won't come back." Jack stood in the center of the cabin, fists trembling, surrounded by newspaper clippings, court records, voice recorders. All of it suddenly meaningless. He'd built a case strong enough to shake institutions, but none of it mattered if Clara ended up dead. He reached for his burner phone and called the one person he hoped never to speak to again. Selena. The call, she didn't answer the first 3 times. On the 4th, she picked up. Cold, wary. You've got nerve. I don't have time for games, Selena. Clara's missing. I think Reyes took her. Silence, then a sigh. Why are you calling me? Because I know you're still in touch with him. And if he's got her, you know where he'd take her. Selena's voice cracked. Jack, I didn't know it would go this far. Jack's jaw tightened. Tell me where she is. I don't know. Then find out, or she dies. A beat. I'll call you in 1 hour. Lead 1. The motel, Selena called back. There's a rundown motel near the industrial zone. Reyes used it before when he needed to be off-grid. Room 12. No security cameras. Jack didn't wait. He drove there alone, armed with a pistol and a recorder tucked into his shirt. The motel was barely lit. 1 buzzing sign. Parking lot full of dust and broken bottles. He checked room 12. Empty. The bed was made, but the closet door creaked open. Inside, a folded hoodie. Clara's. Her name tag still pinned to the collar. A message was scrawled on the mirror in lipstick. She's still breathing. For now. Lead number 2. The storage unit, Mallory traced Reyes's burner number. It pinged near a self-storage facility just outside city limits. An old complex Reyes had once used during his divorce. Jack arrived at nightfall. Row after row of steel doors. Wind rattled through the corridors. Unit number 47 was slightly ajar. He opened it carefully. A chair, duct tape, and blood on the floor. But no Clara. A burner phone sat on the table. Screen cracked but still glowing. A single video was loaded. Clara, gagged, tied, bruised, blinked into the camera. Then Reyes's voice. Tick-tock, Jack. 1 more episode. 1 more lie, and she loses a finger. The screen went black. An unlikely ally, Jack called Selena again. This time, he didn't ask. He demanded. You helped him fake everything. You helped destroy my life. You owe me this. I didn't know he was like this, she whispered. At first it was about revenge, then it became control. Jack's tone was ice. You think I care? Selena took a breath. He used to brag about a cabin in the hills. Said it was a place he could disappear to if things ever went sideways. I always thought it was just talk. Where? Somewhere near Shadow Ridge, north of Mill Valley. Jack ended the call and drove. The standoff Shadow Ridge was remote, thick forest, a gravel path that didn't appear on GPS. At the end of it, a cabin with no lights, no vehicles. Jack approached on foot. Inside, through the window, he saw her, Clara, tied to a chair, blindfolded. He didn't see Reyes, yet. Jack circled to the back door and slipped in. The floorboards creaked, slowly, carefully. He crept toward Clara, heart pounding. Then, metal clicked behind him. I knew you'd come, Reyes said, gun drawn. You always play hero. Jack raised his hands. Let her go. This is between you and me. Reyes laughed. It's always been about her. She turned, you into a martyr, me into a monster, but see, I don't lose. Not unless I take everything from you. Jack stared him down. You're not God. You're just a thug with a badge. Reyes stepped forward. You want her? Go ahead. But one of you leaves here in a bag. The turning point. Jack slowly reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone. Already recording. Reyes sneered. Nobody will believe you. Jack smiled. They will when it's broadcast live. He hit the screen. A green icon blinked. Live streaming to 1.4 viewers. Reyes paled. You son of a... In that moment, Clara kicked the chair backward, slamming into Reyes's legs. Jack lunged. They wrestled. The gun skidded across the floor. Jack grabbed it, stood, aimed. Reyes froze. "Do it," he hissed. "Pull the trigger." Jack's hands shook. He lowered the gun. "You don't get to control the ending." Rescue sirens wailed in the distance. Mallory had traced the live stream location. Police burst in moments later. Real police, federal agents. Reyes was cuffed on the floor, bleeding and furious. Clara was rushed to the hospital. Jack stood on the porch, breathing in the cold night air. Finally, he felt it. Relief and justice. Chapter 6. Trial by Fire. The courthouse was packed. News vans circled like vultures. Protesters gathered outside with signs. Justice for Jack. End the shield. And Reyes must pay. Inside, Jack Ryland sat behind the plaintiff's table. Hands folded tight, jaw clenched. Beside him, Mallory flipped through a folder of notes. Across the aisle, Mateo Reyes entered in an expensive suit, clean-shaven, cufflinks gleaming. No uniform, no badge. Just a mask of civility stretched over a predator. But Jack wasn't intimidated anymore. This time, the system was on his side. At least, for now. Opening salvos. The federal prosecutor opened strong. Detective Mateo Reyes used his authority to fabricate evidence, manipulate women, and destroy lives. But the most damning thing? He thought he could get away with it. He weaponized the badge. Reyes's defense leaned into a different strategy. An ambitious podcaster with a grudge created a media circus to ruin a decorated officer's life. My client's only crime was trusting the wrong people, including his emotionally unstable lover, Selena Ryland. Jack Ibarsch flinched. Selena was now listed as a hostile witness. She hadn't answered any of his calls since the rescue. Mallory whispered, "They're going to try to pin this whole thing on her." Jack's stomach twisted. The evidence unfolds. Clara took the stand first. Clear voice. Head held high. Her wrists still bore faint bruises. She recounted how Reyes manipulated, restrained, and threatened her over a span of 2 years. "Why didn't you come forward sooner?" the defense attorney asked. She didn't blink. "Because women like me don't get believed until someone like Jack does the impossible." The jury watched her closely. Then came the video evidence. Acker's recordings, the live-streamed cabin standoff, the voicemail Reyes left. Each clip hit harder than the last. By day 3, the room felt different. Tense, heavy. Reyes no longer smirked. Selena takes the stand day 4. Jack could barely look at her. Selena walked in wearing a plain black dress, no jewelry, no makeup. She looked older, smaller. The prosecutor questioned her gently. "Ms. Ryland, did you knowingly help Detective Reyes falsify domestic violence charges against your husband?" She hesitated, then nodded. "Yes." A gasp rippled through the room. "I was angry. I wanted out of my marriage. And Mateo said, he said if I played victim, I'd walk away with everything." She turned to Jack. "I didn't know he was planning to frame you. Not like that. Not the bruises, not the arrest. I thought it would all get sealed quietly." The prosecutor pressed. "And the bruise he told you to fake?" "I let him hit me. Once. Just once. I told myself I deserved it." Jack clenched his teeth. Selena wept. "I'm sorry, Jack." For the first time since the nightmare began, he believed her. The defense strikes back. Reyes's lawyer made one last move. He requested a character witness, a former supervisor from Internal Affairs. When the man took the stand, he was calm, professional, and deeply rehearsed. Detective Reyes was one of our most respected officers. He led high-profile investigations, saved lives. I find these accusations hard to believe. Mallory stood up. Were you ever made aware of complaints filed against him by Clara Jensen or others? No, the supervisor said. Nothing credible crossed my desk. She slid a document. Forward. This is a memo, initialed by you, referencing Clara's claim in 2019? Silence. The jury leaned forward. The judge narrowed her eyes. Answer the question. The supervisor hesitated, then muttered, I don't recall seeing that. Mallory smiled. But you signed it. That moment turned the tide for good. The verdict. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. When they returned, the room held its breath. On the charges of obstruction of justice, coercion, and abuse of power, we find the defendant guilty on all counts. Reyes didn't flinch. Not until the judge added, You are hereby sentenced to 22 years in federal prison. No possibility of parole for the first 15. Court adjourned. Jack exhaled for what felt like the first time in months. Aftermath. The headlines the next day were bold. Ex-cop sentenced in explosive framing scandal. Podcast hero Jack Ryland helps expose nationwide abuse network. Selena quietly moved out of state. She never asked for forgiveness, but Jack sent a letter anyway. Not as a husband, but as someone who knew what it meant to live with regret. Clara published a memoir detailing her survival and her role in the takedown. Mallory, she became one of the most in-demand civil rights attorneys in the country. And Jack, he returned to the mic. The final episode, live. Today's episode is about survival, about how systems protect monsters until someone speaks loud enough to make the silence break. I was framed. I was nearly broken, but I wasn't alone. This isn't just my story anymore. It's ours. And it's not over yet. Chapter 7. The Long Game. Jack Ryland thought it was finally over. Reyes was behind bars. Selena had vanished quietly from his life. Clara was safe, recovering. And Mallory was fielding job offers that would set her career ablaze. But closure can be deceptive. Jack's phone buzzed softly late one evening. An encrypted number. He answered warily. Hello? Jack, it's Gideon. Jack sat up straight, confused. Gideon, you're alive. For now, Gideon rasped. But listen carefully. Reyes was just the front line. There's one more player behind all of this. Someone higher. Jack swallowed hard. Who? Judge Langford. He protected Reyes and dozens of others. You need to stop him. How? I left a package. Storage locker at Union Station. Locker 342. Hurry. The call clicked off. The locker Jack arrived at Union Station 30 minutes later, heart racing. He found locker 342, entered the code Gideon had sent via text. Inside, a thick yellow envelope. Inside the envelope was a flash drive and a typed note. If you're reading this, I'm likely already gone. Langford's your final target. Reyes was his muscle. Langford is the brain. Jack's pulse quickened. He plugged the flash drive into his laptop. Hundreds of documents opened. Emails, encrypted chats, and a spreadsheet titled Valor Members Confidential. At the top, Judge Andrew Langford. Dozens of law enforcement officials, politicians, and business leaders listed below him. Jack felt dizzy. Gideon was right. This conspiracy was bigger than one corrupt cop. Last chance, Jack brought the files straight to Mallory. This goes beyond Reyes, he said. We have to get Langford. Mallory scrolled quickly, eyes widening. Jack, this is massive. It won't be easy. Langford is powerful. So are we, Jack replied firmly. But we have to move now, or this dies with us. Mallory nodded. Leave Langford to me. You do what you do best. Tell the truth. One last episode. Jack fired up his recording equipment. This is Jack Ryland. We thought the story ended with Mateo Reyes. We were wrong. There's a judge, Andrew Langford, at the heart of this corruption. This episode is not about revenge. It's about justice. Langford protected abusers, fabricated evidence, and destroyed lives. He must answer for that. We have proof, and it's time the world sees it. Jack uploaded everything. Documents, names, photos. Within hours, the episode had millions of downloads. National headlines erupted again. Federal judge implicated in nationwide corruption scandal. Showdown. The pressure mounted. The Department of Justice publicly announced a formal investigation into Judge Langford. Langford retaliated swiftly. Jack found himself summoned to a closed-door meeting at Langford's private office. No witnesses, no recordings allowed. When Jack arrived, Langford stood calmly behind his desk, tall and imposing. "Sit down, Mr. Ryland." Jack remained standing. "This won't stay secret." Langford smiled thinly. "You misunderstand. I'm offering you an opportunity. End this. Now, retract your allegations, and I'll ensure you live comfortably. Continue and, well, you've seen what we're capable of." Jack's voice shook with rage. "I'd rather die telling the truth than live complicit." Langford's eyes darkened. "You just sealed your fate." Jack walked out, legs trembling, knowing the fight wasn't over. The final twist, 2 days later, Gideon's body was found in a hotel room, ruled suicide. But Jack knew better. Langford was closing loose ends. Jack drove to Clara's, desperate to warn her. When he arrived, the front door was ajar. He drew his gun instinctively, heart pounding. Inside, Clara sat calmly at the kitchen table. Across from her, Selena. Jack froze. "What is this?" Selena stood slowly. "Jack, wait." "Explain," Jack growled, gun shaking. "Langford contacted me," Selena said carefully. "Offered me money, a fresh start, if I stopped you." Jack's eyes narrowed. "You betrayed me again?" Selena shook her head. "No, I refused. But he told me someone else close to you had already accepted his offer." Jack stared, confused. Then his eyes shifted slowly to Clara. She sighed deeply. "I'm sorry, Jack. He got to me after Reyes. Said I'd never be safe again unless I made you stop. But I changed my mind. Selena convinced me." Jack's head spun. Betrayal, redemption, all tangled into one. Clara handed him a burner phone. "Take this. It has everything Langford gave me. Wire transfers, messages, his orders to silence you." Jack's hands trembled as he took the phone. He nodded slowly. "You did the right thing." Final fall. The new evidence sealed Langford's fate. The DOJ issued an arrest warrant. He was apprehended quietly, privately, disgraced in silence rather than fanfare. Langford's public life collapsed overnight. The network unraveled. Officers resigned. Indictments flooded the system. Jack watched news coverage with quiet satisfaction. Clara moved away, wanting peace. Selena left the country altogether, finally free from her guilt and past mistakes. Mallory stayed in touch, always his ally, always fighting. Jack recorded one final episode of his podcast. "I was framed, beaten, threatened, but we won. Not just because of evidence or bravery, but because of truth. A single voice can shatter silence. We exposed corruption, saved lives, and changed a broken system. But there's always more work to do. So never stop speaking. Never stop fighting." The podcast ended with millions listening, and change finally taking root. Jack shut down the recording, took a deep breath, and smiled. It was finally, truly over. Migraine. He cooked pasta for dinner. His wife Selena had texted, "Working late, don't wait up." She hadn't responded after that. At 9:19, her car pulled up. She entered the house shaky, mascara streaked, looking like a woman on the verge. "Selina," Jack asked. "What happened?" She looked at him like he was a stranger. "I need to make a call," she whispered. "Don't come near me." Jack froze. 10 minutes later, the cops showed up. Now cuffed in the back seat of a cruiser, Jack stared at his own house, lit up and crawling with uniforms. Selina stood on the porch, flanked by a female officer. She was dabbing at a small cut on her cheek. She locked eyes with Jack. No fear, just calculation. At the station, they made him strip, photographed his hands, took samples, fingerprints, DNA swabs. He asked for a lawyer. They ignored him for hours. At 1:12 a.m., Reyes walked into the interview room like he owned it. He tossed a file on the table. Jack sat up. "You're not my lawyer." Reyes smiled. "No, I'm the reason you'll need one." Jack narrowed his eyes. "You're sleeping with her, aren't you?" Reyes didn't flinch. "You hurt her." "I didn't touch her." "Funny," Reyes said. "She has a bruise the size of a baseball on her back." "She wasn't even home, Reyes." Reyes leaned in. "She says she came home. You were drunk. You snapped." Jack shook his head slowly. "You did this." Reyes's voice dropped. "You want to make this easy? Confess. Say it was a one-time thing. Say you're sorry." Jack stared him down. "You planted it. You hurt her and pinned it on me." Reyes exhaled and stood. "Then buckle up, Jack. This gets worse before it gets better." The setup Jack made bail the next day. His job put him on leave. His name trended locally. Architect charged with domestic violence. His neighbors avoided him. Pepper got taken by animal control, pending investigation. Selina filed for a restraining order and divorce. It all moved too fast, too clean, like a machine. Jack hired attorney Mallory Kessler, young but hungry. Her first words, "I believe you. Now tell me everything." He did. She pulled her phone out and said, "I've dealt with Reyes. Internal Affairs hates him." "Then let's nail him." But Reyes wasn't stupid. He covered his tracks. The bruise on Selina's back, photographed, documented, time-stamped. Jack's phone, GPS off, no alibi. Mallory said, "We need evidence, something only they would have missed if they staged this." Jack remembered, the front door camera, his Nest feed. He rushed home, logged in, footage deleted, except he backed up clips to the Cloud Weekly. He found a partial. At 9:07 p.m., Selina's arrives. No injuries. She walks inside, perfectly fine. Jack looked at the time code. 9 minutes before she called the police, twisting the knife. Mallory filed a motion to subpoena the full Cloud records. Within days, Jack's home was broken into. The only thing stolen? His laptop. When Jack called the police, guess who showed up? Reyes, wearing Jack's stolen watch. Jack stared in disbelief. Reyes grinned. "Found this in your drawer while checking for forced entry. Evidence bag, of course." He held it up mockingly. Jack clenched his fists. Mallory warned him, "Do not retaliate. He wants to provoke you." Jack stared at his house. They'd taken everything. His name, his marriage, his dog, his future. But they left him one thing, the truth. And Jack wasn't about to let it rot in silence. Chapter 2. The lime machine rain tapped against Jack Ryland's windshield like fingernails. He sat outside the police precinct in his car, engine off, lights dimmed, eyes locked on the glowing glass building ahead. Inside, Mateo Reyes, the man who had framed him, slept with his wife, wore his watch, lied under oath. But Jack wasn't here for revenge. He was here for information. Mallory had said it. Reyes has skeletons. We just need to find the right one and drag it into the light. A whisper from the past. Mallory pulled an old record the day before, barely visible through legal loopholes and red tape. A dismissed domestic disturbance complaint from 3 years ago, filed by a woman named Clara Jensen, Reyes's ex. He choked me, then cuffed me to the radiator. Clara had told the responding officer. Told me if I talked, I'd disappear. But the case quietly dropped. Internal note. Complainant unstable. No further action. Mallory shook her head. Classic silencing tactic. Jack asked, "Can we find her?" "She dropped off the map," Mallory said. "But if she's alive, she's our leverage." Digital breadcrumbs, Jack spent 2 full days combing social media. Clara Jensen had no current accounts, but he found a clue on an old YouTube channel, a 10-second video called Hollow Bones, uploaded 6 months ago. The comments were disabled. The profile had 1 follower, but the description said, "He wears a badge, but monsters wear many masks." CJ. The video? A blurry clip of a man pacing outside a house. The camera was shaky, the lighting terrible, but the silhouette, broad shoulders, slicked back hair, gun on the hip, was unmistakable. Reyes. Meeting Clara Mallory ran the video through metadata filters. The file had GPS coordinates embedded. Jack drove 5 hours to a remote trailer park near Barstow. He knocked. No answer. He waited. A woman finally opened the door, baseball bat in hand. Clara, mid-30s, hollow eyes, scar on her temple. "Get off my porch." Jack held his hands up. "My name is Jack Ryland. I'm not here to hurt you." She didn't relax. "I'm being framed," he said, "by Mateo Reyes, just like you were." She froze. Her grip on the bat loosened. "I have proof," he added, "and I need your story." The testimony. Clara poured herself a glass of vodka and sat down. She told Jack everything. Reyes was charming at first, until he started controlling what she wore, who she saw, how often she left the house. One night, she found handcuffs in the kitchen drawer. Not the police issue ones, leather-lined, used on her when she said no. "I called the cops," she said. "He showed up first. Of course, told them I was drunk and suicidal." Jack leaned forward. "Why didn't you go public?" Clara gave a bitter laugh. "Go public with what? A he said, she said against a clean cop with friends in internal affairs?" Jack showed her the photo of Selena, bruised, tearful, testifying against him. Clara studied it. "She looks like a woman trying to survive. Or win." She stared at Jack. "You sure she's not just scared?" Jack's voice hardened. "She's in on it." Clara nodded slowly. "Then I'll help you. But on one condition." "Name it. When this is over, you expose everything. All of it." Back at the office, Mallory worked through the night. With Clara's recorded testimony, they now had a pattern. A corrupt cop with a history of manipulation, abuse, and cover-ups. Jack's case wasn't a fluke. It was part of a pattern. But without physical evidence, the judge would still side with Reyes. That's when Mallory said something Jack would never forget. "If they used lies to trap you, we'll use the truth to set them on fire." Cracks in the wall. Mallory subpoenaed Reyes's phone records through a backdoor court order. One number kept appearing, burner phones. But one call stood out, a voicemail Reyes left Selena before the night of the incident. A female voice transcribed it. "Make sure the bruise looks bad. If he fights it, we'll claim PTSD from prior incidents. I'll walk the charges through myself." It was enough. Mallory filed an emergency hearing. The hearing, Reyes didn't show up in uniform this time. He came in wearing a charcoal suit, hair slicked back, arm around Selena. Selena didn't meet Jack's gaze. Judge Pruitt reviewed the motion, the video clip from Clara, the audio file, and the nest footage. Reyes's voice, cold, confident, filled the courtroom. The judge stared at him. "Detective Reyes, did you or did you not instruct the alleged victim to fabricate evidence?" Reyes shifted in his seat. "That recording is doctored." Mallory stepped in. "We verified its metadata. It was recorded 3 days before the alleged incident." Selena flinched. The judge continued. "Ms. Ryland, were you ever physically harmed by your husband?" Silence. Jack held his breath. Selena looked at Reyes, then back at the judge. "No, I wasn't." The lie collapses that the courtroom exploded. Reyes turned to Selena, seething. "You promised." The judge slammed her gavel. "Enough!" Security pulled Reyes aside as he shouted threats. Jack stood, free. Mallory smiled faintly. "Welcome back." Aftermath. Reyes was indicted for conspiracy to obstruct justice, evidence tampering, and multiple counts of domestic assault. Selena avoided jail but lost custody of Pepper, her license, and her job. Clara moved in with her sister. She and Jack stayed in touch. Mallory, promoted, took on police accountability cases full-time. As for Jack, he didn't go back to his old life. He started a podcast, called it Framed. His first episode? This very story. Chapter 3. The podcast that changed everything. A single red light blinked in the corner of Jack's small guest room. The mic was hot, the camera was rolling, and his voice, once silenced by corruption, was finally his again. Episode 1. My name is Jack Ryland, and this is the story of how I was framed by a man who wore a badge and slept in my bed when I wasn't looking. This is how justice tried to break me, and how the truth wouldn't stay buried. Going public, Jack uploaded the episode to all major platforms. He didn't expect much, but by the next morning, it had 84,000 plays. Within 48 hours, 2.3 million. The emails flooded in. People shared their own stories. Some were survivors. Others were still in hiding. Some feared retaliation by officers in their towns. A few simply wrote, "You're not alone." Jack sat in front of his laptop, reading until 3 a.m., stunned. The next day, he recorded episode 2, and then 3. By the end of the week, he'd been booked on 3 major talk shows. But with attention came danger. The message: Jack returned home after a radio interview to find his front door open. Inside, nothing stolen, nothing out of place, except one thing: a bullet, laid gently on his kitchen table. Next to it, a handwritten note. "People forget. You should too." He called Mallory. She arrived within 30 minutes, stormed into the kitchen, gloves on, and carefully bagged the bullet. "This isn't a threat," she said. "It's a warning. They're nervous." "Nervous means we're hitting something real," Jack replied. Mallory's eyes darkened. "You ready for what that means?" "I wasn't before. I am now." Meet the network. Through Clara, Jack got access to a closed survivor forum. One name kept coming up: Project Valor, a supposed internal watchdog group within law enforcement, except it wasn't about protection. It was about control. Detectives, judges, lawyers, politicians, all allegedly tied to a silent network of officers willing to use force, fake reports, or erase evidence, especially when it served their personal agendas. One poster claimed they were sexually assaulted by a Valor-linked officer. The report was lost 3 times before the case vanished. Another man said he served 5 years for a crime his brother committed. His public defender? Married to a Valor affiliate. Clara warned him, "You pull on this thread, it unravels the entire sweater." Jack leaned in. "Then let's burn the whole damn sweater." Targeted by Episode 6, Jack's podcast, Framed, was the Nusber 3 show on Apple and Spotify. That same week, his bank accounts were frozen. His credit score dropped 210 points overnight. Mallory called it weaponized bureaucracy. Next, his landlord got a noise complaint from the police. An eviction notice followed. Jack moved in with Clara. Even she seemed rattled. They're not just watching now, they're squeezing. Then came the call. The whistleblower block number, raspy voice, male. "I have documents. Project Valor isn't a myth, but if you go public, you'll end up on a list." Jack recorded it all. "Who are you?" "I was internal affairs, until I asked too many questions." He gave a name. Daniel Acker. Retired, living under the radar in New Mexico. Said he had files, names, logs. Jack didn't hesitate. He and Mallory booked a flight the next morning. In the desert, Acker's place sat in the middle of nothing. Dust-covered windows, a sagging American flag. Inside, boxes, files, VHS tapes. He was tall, gray-haired, trembling, but lucid. "You think it was just Reyes?" he said. "There are 38 officers in the western states alone tied to falsified reports. 29 women jailed on trumped-up charges. I tried to go to the feds. My brakes failed 2 weeks later." He handed Jack a flash drive. Proof. Reyes filed 3 other DV reports using the same exact language. Emotional instability, prior anger episodes, public threat profile. He cut and pasted them. Why? Power, favor trading, sometimes just petty revenge. "Why give this to me?" Jack asked. Acker's eyes were hollow. "Because I don't want to die knowing I let monsters wear halos." The power of truth. Episode 8 featured Acker's voice. Clips of Reyes's repeated phrases. Victims' mugshots, evidence of falsified timelines. Handwritten memos proving internal coordination. Redacted names leaked on air. The episode hit 4.6 million plays in a single weekend. National outlets picked it up. CNN, Vice, even 60 Minutes called. But just as momentum built, Acker's house caught fire. He didn't survive. The police ruled it electrical. Jack knew better. So did the world. The backlash, Jack became a lightning rod. Protests formed, half praised him, half called him a liar. Mallory's office was vandalized. Clara received anonymous, letters laced with threats. One night, Jack found his car slashed, tires gutted, windshield shattered, the word rat etched across the hood. Mallory told him, "We have enough to trigger a federal hearing. But you need to understand, they'll try to bury you before they let that happen." Jack paused. "I don't care." The live episode. He set up cameras, live streamed to over 1.2 million people. Tonight, we expose how a decorated detective named Mateo Reyes built his career on manipulation. We name the officers, the judges, the system. He played Acker's tapes. He dropped names. He ended with a message. "They framed me. They silenced women. They locked away the innocent. And we are done being quiet. You can kill a man, but not the truth." Chapter 4. Death Threats and Deputies. The email came at 3:09 a.m. No subject, no sender. Just a single line. "You won't survive the weekend." Jack Ryland stared at the screen in the dark. He was still in Clara's spare room, sitting in a hoodie, unshaven, his eyes red from sleep deprivation. Another death threat. The 5th this week. But this one felt different. Attached was a screenshot. His podcast setup taken from outside the window. Same lighting, same shirt he wore the night before, same frame on the wall. Whoever sent it was close, watching, right now. Off the grid. Mallory's voice cracked with urgency when he called. Jack, shut everything down. Go completely offline. I mean it. You think they'll really? I know they will. These aren't scare tactics anymore. You've embarrassed people who operate above consequences. Get somewhere safe. I'll handle press inquiries. Jack nodded. An hour later, he and Clara packed everything. Phones in Faraday pouches. Laptop encrypted and buried in the back seat. The podcast was paused indefinitely. Social accounts locked down. Clara knew a place. A friend with a cabin, 3 hours into the mountains. No cameras, no neighbors, no signal. Perfect. The cabin. The cabin was modest. Stone chimney, warped wooden floors. The kind of place that creaked even when nobody moved. Clara lit a fire. Jack closed every curtain. He stared at the mountain through a crack in the window, watching the fog creep like a warning. I should have stopped at episode 1, he muttered. Clara looked up. Then Reyes would still be free, and you'd still be accused. Jack nodded slowly. But Acker's dead. We're not far behind. She reached out and squeezed his hand. Then let's make sure it was worth it. Visitors. On the third day, a pickup truck appeared down the hill. Dark green, tinted windows, government plates. Jack froze. Clara. She looked out the window. That's not my friend. 2 men stepped out. Windbreakers. Badges visible, but no names. No introductions. Knock, knock, knock. Jack answered with the chain still latched. Jack, Ryland? The taller man asked. Yes? We're with the Department of Justice. We'd like to speak with you about your podcast. Jack hesitated. You got a warrant? No, just questions. Clara pulled Jack aside. They don't have jurisdiction out here. They can't force entry. Jack opened the door fully. Talk, outside. The interview. They stood near the porch, wind blowing pine needles across their boots. You've drawn attention to some very powerful people, said the taller man, including our own. Jack crossed his arms. That a threat? It's a reminder, the second agent said. You don't understand how far this goes. Jack stepped closer. You want me to stop? The first agent didn't blink. We want you to survive. Keep talking and we can't help you when the wrong people start listening. Clara stepped between them. Conversation's over. The agents turned and left, slowly. As they reached their truck, one called back. Dead men don't win court cases. Unlikely help that night, Jack received a signal-boosted encrypted email. It was from a former assistant DA, alias Gideon. The message read, You've stirred the hornet's nest. Good, but you're in over your head. If you want to live long enough to testify, meet me in the parking lot of mile 49 Daner. 1 hour. Come alone. Clara frowned. Sounds like bait. Or our best lead yet, Jack said. She tossed him a burner gun. Then go loaded. Mile 49. The diner was empty. Just one man at a booth in the back. Late 50s, dark coat, gray beard, eyes like wet stone. You're early, he said. You're Gideon? Used to be something better. He slid a file across the table. Thick, heavy. Everything I collected during my time in the DA's office. Reyes was a foot soldier. The real problem is Judge.